Hi, welcome everyone, and thank you for tuning in this evening. My name's Ken McCluskey. I'm a musician. I work with the Bluebells, still do sometimes, and a McCluskey brother, the group's McCluskey Brothers and the Bluebells. And I teach at a college called Glasgow Kelvin College, the home of knowledge. Tonight we're joined by my good friend Sweeney, also known as the photographer Brian Sweeney. Now I may go between calling him Brian and sometimes Sweeney, but forgive me for that. Tonight we're going to be looking at Brian's exhibition, photographs from Brian's exhibition, which is currently on in Trongate 103. It's part of a wider programme, the Everything Flows programme, which has been put on for the year of coasts and waters. There's a kind of watery link all the way through it. Now that exhibition's on until the 3rd of October. So you can get down there to 103 Trongate and you'll see these photographs in the exhibition. Now, Brian's also got an exhibition at the same time round the corner, very popular man, in Sogo Arts, which is in the Salt Market. So you get two for the price of one. Well, they're both free, but you know what I mean. You can go to that one, have a wee coffee in between Sogo, go down, it's just across from the fish place, then go down, get some fish, then go down to the 103 Trongate. So Brian's other exhibition is fabulous. I was at it. I've been at both of them actually, and that is there's a wee book that goes with it as well, and it's called Great Stadiums of the North, and that's at Sogo Arts, and that's on for a few weeks, is it, Brian?
It finishes. We're having a closing party on October the 1st and 2nd, and then that's it. Okay. So there's a week. Okay.
So you've got a week left to go and see both. You get a wee coffee in between or something next time you're in town. Okay, so I first met Brian, through music. Brian took up photography, became a bit of a video maker for indie bands, hip hop bands, a fashion photographer, all sorts of different things. So I've met Brian in all sorts of different areas of the arts, mostly film and photography. Just like most musicians or most artists, you have to be a bit of an urban crofter and do lots of things to keep a roof over your head. And it's not a bad thing, actually. It keeps you on your toes. So, Brian, I'm just going to let you talk about, first of all, so I'll say to the audience first, at the end of this little talk, we're going to have sort of question and answer session. And if you want to make any comments on the Facebook page, we'll address those comments at the end of this little session after the photographs are finished. So, Brian, I was just going to ask you to open up and maybe say a wee bit of a background about how you're kind of a commercial photographer, an art photographer, filmmaker, but you also came across this project, the G20 project, which was based on the canals. Could you tell us a wee bit about how that happened?
It was just one of these happenstances, and it's kind of what happened kind of throughout my life. There was no intention to be a photographer. It just kind of happened along the way, and people kept on phoning, and it was just another one of those things. It all started with a phone call, and I was actually going up to shoot a Teenage Fan Club video up in Edwin Collins' studio up in
it's Helmsdale.
Yeah, so we were going up there, and I was picking up Donald Millen, and a photographer friend of mine who used to work for the Face back in the 90s, lovely guy, and we were going up to shoot that, and I got a phone call, and for some reason I thought this phone call's important. I didn't recognise the number, and I pulled over, and I answered the call, and it was a pal of mine, Cara, and she said, listen, there's a project going up at the canal, and I thought of you straight away. She was working in the arts division of Scottish Canals at the time, and she says, I know it might not be up your street, but it's a year-long kind of project. Would you be interested? And she went on to tell me what it was all about, and I was just like, you joking? Getting paid to walk my dog for a year? Brilliant. And it was great. It was everything I love about doing photographs. The brief was totally open, and it was left up to me. I had nobody looking over my shoulder telling me what to do. They told me I could do what I wanted.
Fantastic. So G20, you've kept it within your kind of area.
Well,
so G20 is local to me. It's local to you. Was that a thing? Was that part
well,
of the
no, the whole remit was that it was the Scottish branch of Scottish Canals. So there's a wee bit where it gets to Stockenfield Junction, and it breaks off to go to Edinburgh.
That's right.
Like you've got to go if you're cycling. You've got to go underneath that Clatty Bridge, and then it was a bit basically goes through Stockenfield Junction, off of Maryhill Locks, up to Pinkston, where the power station used to be.
Yeah.
So that's how it kind of came about in G20. So it was just, and I didn't realise at the time, I just thought it was a documentary project, but basically I came to realise that it was all about the last bastions of what the canal would look like before the massive regeneration, which was taking part. And yeah, it was just like, you know, we just kind of said, there's a stretch of water, and you've got a camera, just go and take pictures. I mean, they gave me a kind of double page spread of a lookbook with a couple of photographs, and there was wee guys drinking bucky, and it was guys going into the canal, and there was people kissing, and there was folk cycling, and you know, all manner of stuff. But that was it, you know. And to me, like a brief like that's just incredible, because you can take it where you want, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes a year's not, well, a year was never enough to do everything you wanted to do, but you know, you've got to set yourselves, you know, kind of start points and finishing points, otherwise you'd end up with a series of photographs like a Pink Floyd album or something, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we start with the first photograph, and then we'll have a wee chat about that.
Right. This is where I do this.
It's okay. Just have to.
Can we see?
We can see the bridge.
Can you see the slideshow?
Yes, we can now. Yeah.
Excellent.
So the first one, you can see that one. The first one's at the big white houses at the beginning of the block. Can you go back one?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, you'd like to tell us a wee bit about this one? It's lovely. Is this early morning?
No, this was early evening in the winter, and it was a kind of shot I'd seen for ages and ages and ages and really wanted to take. And it was one of those ones where I'd walked that day and I saw the way the weather was going, and I thought, right, Albion, come on, you're getting out for a second walk. The day. This must have been about 4 o'clock. So this is right in the middle of winter. And you can tell with the skies, you get used to the skies up there. But I mean, it's like a little kind of microclimate. And so we just walked along, and the 2 shots, I did one that side and one the other. And it wasn't a massively long exposure, because you'd see a wee bit of, you know, wee bit of movement on the boats. But I mean, it was just simple. I suppose it's a bit of a kind of, I don't know, like cliche of the canals, and it's kind of unlike a lot of the shots that I intended to do. But I think there's room for everything in a project like this, if you know what I mean, Ken. It's
see these lights, see the lights with the
every album needs an acoustic ballad at the end, you know.
That's right. Of course, you did the slow one. You did the slow one for the slow dance. You did the slow dance for the end of the disco, yeah. But you're starting with the slow dance.
It's got catalogue written all over it, you know, like is that the end of the year catalogue? But I quite like it, you know.
I like these lights. They're brilliant. The wee one that looks, you know, the little sparkly lights that are. Is that a wire that's across there? Is that actual? Is that a pole? Are they poles? Those lights?
That's a pylon. Oh no, the lights. Oh no, they're just like the wee lights that shine down for the car onto the cars.
Brilliant, yeah.
So that people see where they're going when they finish work and don't fall.
It's amazing to see that how still that is at that time as well. That sort of piece.
I know it's amazing. I heard there was some plans to renovate it into something new. I think they will do something with it eventually. But it's an amazing building. I know they'll definitely get plans for the building behind it.
Yeah. So is that actually the Canal Waterways building? Is that a sort of administration centre or something like that? No,
it was. I think it was. I mean, God, I'd like. Probably somebody from Scottish Canals watching this going, what's his number? But it's like, I think it was owned by a guy who owned a load of warehouses years ago when the canal was a motorway, and he used to send stuff up and down the canal, and he used that for contraband or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I had in there. But I don't know. I think they're in a state of disrepair. I'm not sure if Scottish Canals actually own them, but they kind of must do. But I actually never set foot inside that. Set inside the what you call it, the where they work, the thing behind it, and then beyond that as well was brilliant. It's this yard which is full of all the stuff that pulled out the canal.
Oh, brilliant!
It was maybe
before the magnet fishermen got there.
Aye, before the magnet. No, but you're talking like, you know, with more shopping trolleys and as the government, it was mental. And it's an interesting wee story. They were like the boys at work there were raging because they used to get money off the scrappies for all the stuff that they took it, and would put it all away for everybody that worked the canals for a Christmas do. And then that law and scrappies was all, you know, because people were pulling stuff off the roofs and all that, you know, copper, like, you know, I'm not insinuating you here or anything.
I should do, yeah. It's many a nice building was ruined by stripping the lid off.
It's just great. It's like you could walk in there and it just looked like something out of the Midwest or something, just all this mad debris, which was fished out with this super magnet of a bare hand, some of them.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move along to the next one. So this is really just across, is it, from that area? It's kind of the rock.
Well, it's further up for Applecross. This was Spears Wharf, and what really interested me about this was just I love those flats. I mean, I love flats in the landscape. It was like my old boss Jamie Fry, who was a music photographer, always said to me, he said every pop group in a photograph should look like the Manhattan skyline. And I loved that skyline, and there was this red light that was going on in this wee building, and I thought there must be some art going on in there or something, you know, or I don't know, Roxanne video or something, police some mad caper, but it really stood out, and I was drawn to it. I saw it a couple of times cycling by and walking by, and this one week, and then a week or so later it was no more. So I don't know if it was some light installation or something like that. Maybe Angus Sparkelson had something to do with an NVA, I don't know. Yeah. But I just really liked it because it's just a basic city skyline.
Yeah.
I was just drawn into those windows and what I wanted to see what was inside those windows.
Yeah. So that's the area, that's kind of like the things known as the Round Toll, just at where it used to be called Rock Villa.
Rock Villa.
It's a great name, isn't it, Rock Villa, which is basically just the Garscube Road, isn't it? Garscube Road.
Difficult second album.
The Tower Barris. Sweeney, you're busy. You're a busy man. That'll probably be.
It's my daughter from Sweden.
All right. I was going to say it's probably some celebrity wanting a photograph taken.
Aye, my daughter from Sweden.
Fair enough. We move on to the next one.
Aye, on the sub-bell, that's it. She probably heard the cosmic waves of Rock Villa calling her. But yeah, Rock Villa, it's crazy. I've got no idea why it was called Rock Villa.
I've no idea either, but I saw it on a map. I used to work at Stowe College. We were handing it over, Stowe College, over to the art school because their place burnt down and we were getting chucked out because we had no money at the college. So we gave over the plans, and it was, I mean, that whole area of Cookhaddens was absolutely massive before they destroyed it with the waterway. And it was loads and loads of houses, and it was amazing. There was an aerial shot of it, and on the aerial photograph, it told you the different bits of Townhead, and there was a bit called Rock Villa. I just thought that was amazing. What a great name!
Rock Villa.
What team do you support? Rock Villa. That'd be good. Yeah.
Super. But it was like I'd looked into it, and there was a cinema that used to be across there, and I think I've still got the ruins of the old pub. Scottish Canals offices, so you're just up that way. I know that makes no sense to anybody, but if you're looking at a photograph, look to the right.
That's right.
And it's up there, there's old ruins, and they've also got like 7 stones that I can't remember what artist did, which represent the reservoirs that surround Glasgow that fill the canals.
All right, cool.
Days of school.
Okay, we move on to the next one.
Aye. Right, this is my attempt at a Cartier-Bresson moment, but I just kind of quite liked it. Like, in the sense, it's just a routine day. Like, you know, I'd walk up there every other day, or whenever I wasn't shooting something else. And I'll be the first to admit, some days I was just like, there's nothing happening. There's nothing happening. And I just saw this wee scene coming together, and it's so mundane and so normal, but I love it because it just kind of represents like every single day, or day you're up there. It's just, I just stood and did that Cartier Breast song thing of just waiting and something to happen, because nothing was happening that day. I didn't see anything interested. There was nobody fishing. There was nobody drunk. There was nobody on the mobility scooter falling into the canal. It was just like, there was just nothing happening. So I thought, right, I'll try this. And, I suppose it's just, it's a canal, basically,
I like the wee guys going on a North Kelvin football strip. My son used to play for them. They're the local team.
Really?
The canal team, yeah, they're the canal team. North Kelvin.
There's another half incidence.
And we'll also talk about North Kelvin a wee bit later, because I did notice another North Kelvin football player in one of your photographs.
Tremendous. But I like the wee Wayne here. Just really excited. She's seen something somewhere. Who knows what it is? And just to like. And I'd like, before I did this, I hadn't spent a lot of time up at the canal, and the amount of folk that do water sports up there was just nuts, especially when it comes to spring. And, well, even in the winter, I'd see folk like going up on the Duke of Edinburgh Award, and they'd be up cracking the ice, like canoeing up the canal.
Well, the water is really clean. I've been fishing up a few times. It's really clean. You can see the bottom and all that. It's relatively clean.
Did you catch a pike for a famous restaurant?
Caught a pike. I did catch a pike, but we'll talk about that later on when we get to the basin, the famous basin with the wee parapets. Yeah, I've got a few. There's loads of stuff in it. There's terrapins in it. Do you know that?
Aye, I never managed to photograph.
I've not seen a terrapin yet, but somebody told me there's terrapins. It's just like terrapins get too big for their aquarium, and just they chuck them in the canal.
Ninja turtles.
There's probably alligators in there as well. A couple of crocodiles.
I've seen rats the size of.
I've seen big rats
up there.
Yeah, but a lot of them are water rats, and water rats get really big, and water rats they're just natural. It's just tails of the riverbank, really, isn't it?
Aye, we Albion had a lot of fun up there, that's for sure. Yeah. You want me to move on?
Yep.
Now, again, I think this, to me, although it's not ideal, but I met a guy the other day who's exhibiting in Maryhill Borough Hall, a guy, Josh Treen, and he took a lot of photographs in Maryhill, especially along the canal, in the 70s. And he'd come down to my show in Sogo and he got chatting to Craig, who runs the gallery and all that, and he said, "Oh, I love this stuff, and like Josh was saying, and Craig was like, "Well, Brian's up Maryhill. He'd love to see this." So he left a wee brochure for me, and so I looked at the brochure, and Grapes, Kelvin Dock, which was instrumental in me doing this project, because it's a wee pub. It's been there since time began on the canal, and sitting there, it's just an old man's pub, never that busy, just cool. Sit there, and I'd sit there like Wrigley, contemplating art, and then you get yourself, part of a generation where you travel about and you'd meet people in pubs before you'd phones and all that, and you'd sit and stare at the pub carpet for ages, and sometimes ideas would form from the pub carpet, maybe it was like a form of acid. But basically, when you opened this brochure out, there was this beautiful shot, right, and it was of loads of kids playing on the canal when it was frozen over, and in the background was all the tenements when the Butney used to be the Butney, and I just looked at it, and there was something that made me just really, just like made me kind of like not leap with joy, but just this is brilliant, And what it was it was two things. It was like there was kids playing, and you hardly ever see kids playing anymore, and I'd see a lot of kids playing up at the canal. But you've got to be careful, because as soon as you pull out a camera in front of a kid, now it's you're a fucking pedo, so you've got to be really, really careful.
Yeah.
And so it was just this beautiful shot of kids playing on this canal, just oblivious to the shot, like oblivious to the photographer, just like, it doesn't matter. He's there. And I got, and I kind of had to get the shot and met when I printed it up. And I think it's something that's really missed. A lot of kids, when they get older, they'll miss out on this the fact that there's a documentation of them just playing and having fun and being free and expressing themselves in a way that doesn't involve a computer screen, which I suppose we're kind of doing just now. But again, and that photograph that Josh took, he took it at the same time, and I would have probably been the same age as the kids in the photograph, so it's a certain resonance with me. And this is kind of, you know, I got some other shots, but this was kind of nearest to that kind of almost nonchalance. But I quite like the wee guy staring right down the lens. You know, he's got each singer written all over him. So
well, the confidence of that wee guy is incredible. Just the balance. You know, you're a wee guy.
Well, I got a text off, you know, an old friend of mine who I haven't seen for ages, who's a teacher locally. And she went down to see the exhibition. She texted me. She's like, "No way, I taught that wee boy in photograph." And that was kind of quite nice as well, you know. And it's one of those. It's just kids out doing stuff, which is a great thing for me to see. It's like, you know, I think that's kind of lost in a lot of kids. I might be wrong, you know. My kids do it, and you know, my granddaughter, and take her up to, you know, she loves wildlife and all that. But you don't see kids swinging on ropes across rivers and all that anymore, you know. And I think that's it's a really valuable part of photography, I think, as well as that. And then it's not even nostalgia, it's just you know, just the innocence of childhood and, you know, the adventure before you get into the world. And we're not going to be able, a lot of these kids now won't see themselves doing that, you know, because everything's staged, but everybody's doing, you know, it's that. Anyway.
Oh, you put on your selfie face.
Yeah, it's all that now, you know.
Yeah, so, but I love that wee guy. He's great. The balance is great. That's the kind of gate thing he's on as well.
Just right down the lens, man. Right down the lens. Winnie Liam.
Right.
Move on.
Who's this guy?
This is part of the lot of drink up at Lamb Hill Stables. Now, you know, I didn't actually, well, you know, you never do as a photographer, like actually stick to the route that you're kind of told to, but it's still Glasgow and it's a big history. And Lamb Hill Stables in itself is a great, you know, it's a great wee place we've got a photography club in there. We do stuff we do loads of stuff for the community. It's like it's a community centre, and there's, you know, kids that come out of jail or like folk come out of jail. You know, we do gardening, there's landscaping and all that. It's a great wee place. One of my pals kind of works up there, and you know, so I'd go up there every now and then and photograph, you know, some of the boys, but be careful to do it at the right time of day, you know. And the kind of, you know, we do get a bit messy, and a lot of them didn't have jobs and all that, and they haven't had for years and years. But their knowledge of wildlife is incredible. There's a wee group of them, and a kingfisher had a nest just behind him, so up to the right of his shoulder. And they would sit, but sometimes it'd be 18 of them, sometimes it'd be 9 of them, sometimes it'd be 5 of them. The kingfisher would just sit there and do its fishing. It's just oblivious to this racket going on. I think people used to call it the House of Jakey Commons at one time, because you'd be going by and you'd hear everybody shouting at one another and all that. Yeah.
There's a couple. Well, again, the kingfisher is a good sign of clean water.
Clean water, right?
Yeah, but there's a couple of bits in the canal that I've come across, and it's where like bramble bushes have kind of all overcome like that, and people have made basically a kind of igloo shaped thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like just a little bothy sort of thing, where you can go in and get cans and all that. There's one up near Loch End. Is it Loch End Road? Yeah. You know, the kind of new flats in Loch End Road. There's one there, and it's incredible, but it's a kind of natural igloo made of raspberry bushes and bramble bushes and all that. And it's like a wee hole. I think they've hollowed it out, so you can sit in it, and it's watertight. You can get jaked and all that.
Aye, amazing.
Quite good. Resourceful
little creatures. Yep. This is just, like, again, you can go up the canal any morning in the winter, and this is just Peaky Blinders. So this is like, I've sold loads of pictures of these. People say they love it. Reminds them of Peaky Blinders. And that's another thing about the canal. You could, you know, you could blindfold a load of folk, put them in a minibus, and take them up to the canal, and take the blindfolds off. And there's certain bits of it that would just been planted in the early 18th, 19th century, you know, easily. Yeah, this is just one of those, you know, I like doing that every now and then. You know, you just know when you've looked at, like, this is kind of timeless, you know, apart from plastic pontoons on the right hand side. You know, you can really tell when this was shot. You know, and I kind of quite like that a lot of that. They've integrated a lot of that stuff into, you know, and obviously the electricity, but we've integrated a lot of the regeneration into lots of old time stuff as well. And it's almost, you see the whiskey bond in the back, and you could always imagine, you know, all this blinders era stuff going on, but actually, you know, this crazy multimedia, like, you know, place now, you know, like, but
it's where we go to put our digital platforms up, or it's where you go to put your music on Spotify.
I mean, I know a guy up there who represents folk in China and Japan, you know, it's insane, you know, but outside it looks like it's 1922 or something. You know? I
love the way a lot of the canal boats, they've still kept the look, the kind of long boats, the barges and all that. So that kind of hooded thing, that's a wee bit of mystery to that one. You know, instead of you see new boats, if you go to a marina down at Largs or down at Troon or down at, you know, it's all these kind of boats. They look like a bathroom or something. They look like your new toilet suite or something like that. You know, they're all white. They're all white and plastic and, you know, horrible prefabricated things. But these things have kept a kind of look, haven't they?
Well, it's almost like, I don't know if that's part of the, I don't know, like the design standards, like, you know, but unfortunately we didn't do in Lewis when, you know, you get planning permission to build a house.
Yeah.
This conception that Lewis is filled with these thatched cottages and black houses when it's just full of 70s horrible structures. But it's as if we've kind of kept the aesthetic to
because
there was a girl, Karen, I photographed, who's not in these photographs, but she'd a boat back up and she lived on it full time, and the design was more or less exactly like you know, boats you would have got years ago. From the barge owners I talked to, it's a sense of pride, really, as well, isn't it? You know, it's if you're going to make that effort to live in a canal barge, you know, you might as well go the whole hog. You know,
I think it's like having if I'd like an allotment and a barge for my Christmas. That's what I'm getting.
Aye, well, I'll save up, Ken.
Should we move on?
Aye. Right.
Who's this guy? He looks interesting.
Well, I think he's named on the file Chicken Man Do Man. But this is up the back of Rock Hill in the Old Cow. Well, he called it the Old Cow. And this is the Rock Hill Zoo, or menagerie, as he used to call it. And basically, it's a wee bit, you know, folk who got up the canal have seen it a million times. You don't see it in summer, but you see it in winter. And it's a wee compound opposite Mauser's Ducat, which is a Ducat just after Partick Thistle, after Fair Hill on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
He's put his photos in it later. But him and his sons own this wee compound, and we've got, like, well, we keep chickens and ferrets, polecats, breed patterdales, and they've got the doos as well. And he was saying with budgies, and they used to have a donkey, and it was called the Rock Hill Zoo, and all the Waynes would go down in the summer and, you know, check it all out. And it's still going, and this is another thing that's quite good about the whole regeneration of the canal, but we've kept that there. We've moved around, and that's now like a nature reserve now. It's called, I think we've branded it, not called it, branded it the Clay Pits.
Oh yeah, it looks great.
It's great.
It does look brilliant. What they've done.
It's brilliant what they've done. You know, it's absolutely amazing. But it's just great. It's like something like Danny, the champion of the world, you know, a Roald Dahl, like kind of, you know, I live off the land, man.
But these guys were the sort of curators of it, weren't they? They'd taken bits and just sort of, like the guy with the Ducat, just the Partick Thistle thing.
It's rubbish that people have just flung over the back. And it's just magic. And it took me a wee while to photograph him, you know, like, you can't just turn up. I mean, I never do that anyway with a camera if I'm on tour or if I'm documenting somebody. It's like you've got to kind of, you know, especially there, you've got to let people trust you and know you're not out to, you know, stiff him or anything. Man, I was just really, you know, he looks great, looks brilliant. And I really like this photograph because the chicken's shit is mid-flow. And it looks as though it's embarrassed. It's looking away going, it wasn't me.
Showing you his arse.
you know, it took us a wee while. And this is another thing. It's like, you know, I think we pressed on it earlier, but I did. It's like a year's never long enough to do a project, because we'd had an idea at the start. So we're doing the photographs, and there were so many people I met. The stories were absolutely amazing. So I started recording a few of them, but it just became too time consuming, and I'd got folk involved as well, and there just wasn't the budget to do it. So maybe that's something for the future. But I mean, this guy could, like, I've actually made a short film with him. I've got a film of about 2.5 minutes we shot with him, mucking around there and doing stuff. And it's just brilliant. You could sit and listen to him all day. His stories are mental. They're brilliant. You know, it's priceless. And that's one of the things I love about the characters you'd meet up there.
Yeah, it's just like a haven, isn't it? It's like the canal's a kind of safe haven, isn't it? It's like you would think, you know, people used to be kind of scared of the canal, but it's actually loads of stuff going on it.
It's one of the safest places you could probably go, man.
Because people, they actually invest in it. You know, a lot of people, it's a place where they spend a lot of time, and they meet their mates, and they, you know, they talk to each other. That sort of communication thing, you know, it's easier to communicate there than it is in a busy street or a, you know, or something like that. You know?
It's an absolutely different world. People change when they go up, and I don't know if it's to do with the calmness of the nature that surrounds, because it's just a little wildlife artery through Glasgow, and you know, definitely people's attitudes change, and people are more open to talking to people perhaps they wouldn't otherwise talk to before, which I found out over the course of a year. Could you excuse me for 1 minute?
Yes. Okay, could you put another photograph and I'll talk about it for a second? I'll just talk about it for a second. All right. I'll tell you a brief story about that while he's away. I don't know what he's away to. It might be with the toilet or something. But this photograph here, all the way up the canal, there's swans, and the swans are very bold. So I cycled with my children up to Bowling from here, just near Partick Thistle's ground, all the way to Bowling, and it was springtime, so swans everywhere, and the swans just have their nests anywhere. I mean, the swans nest just at the side of the water. Some swans nest in people's gardens at the side of the canal, up at Blair Dardy and all that. And it's funny. There's a kind of some people are scared of swans. Ducks fight swans. So this is a picture of Sweeney's dog Albion. When he talks about Albion, it's a wee dog. It's a wee terrier. And I was just introducing Albion there, so you could maybe take that on. And when Albion met the swans. Well,
this is quite interesting for me. Just every dog I've had is a running battle with a swan at one point. Just like I think they actually fancy one another. But just like every time we passed, the swan would go out of its way to actually niggle Albion, and Albion would be the same. And in terms of look at size of Albion, that swan will kill you.
Yeah,
but it was just one of those things where I was actually just taking a photograph of the scene, and I didn't realise what was actually in the scene until I got back and looked at the photograph, and I was just like, all right, that's where he was. I was wondering where he was, because you can't really see him in there. Mm-hmm. And it's a kind of weird one, this one, because it's up in the billboards, up at all the residents chose it as one of the photographs they wanted at Stockingfield Junction on the billboards. And I just like, you know, why do people
there's a great mythology about swans. Like, so I'm from Lanarkshire originally, and there's a guy at my school called Swanee McCluskey.
Right.
And I'm like, what you call Swanee for? He was brave enough to swim out into these lochs. It's now Strathclyde Park, but it used to be a series of holes, quarries where the bings used to be.
Aye.
He swam out to a swan's nest and knocked an egg. Now that was seen as the bravest or most stupid thing to do. So he was called Swanee McCluskey. So why are you called Swanee? Oh, I knocked a swan's egg's about that size.
Did he get back one piece?
He got back one piece, apparently. But there's a kind of mythology that, if you go near a swan's nest, it will break your back.
Aye.
So nobody touches swans. You know what I mean? If it was something else, if it was like a smaller bird or something like that, shoot it or something like that. But swans seem to have this kind of, I know they've got the Queen's protection, but there's a kind of thing, you don't touch a swan.
Aye,
don't go near a swan, they'll leather you.
Like people send Prince Andrew after you. That's
I know. I know, but it's a brilliant photo. That's action. That's a great action. That one's it's a total Gallus swan in it.
I really like about it is the car. I hate cars and photographs. I don't know. But just like, Mrs. Swan's just not even bothered. She's just like that. No. Off you go, the two of you. Just like,
sort it out. Just
little Albion doing his thing.
Yeah, right, photograph.
Right, so this is the gang again up at the Lambs Hill, and like the head of him, he's not in this shot, and we were all right for me to photograph him a couple of times, and then they were like, right, you've done your photos, now get to. And the boy, like, we're all a decent lot, but it's like we're all decent until all that runs out. But it was a boy who's kind of the leader of them, the Colonel, and I was kind of fascinated by, well, why is he called the Colonel? Why is he called the Colonel? And somebody tried to commit suicide in the bridge just up from there, and the Colonel was the first one in. So, to get this girl out who committed suicide, and I was one of the boys like, why is it, why is he called the Colonel? I'd seen he jumped in there and that, has he got some kind of military background? And they were like, is he? He's the only one of us that had a job 22 years ago in Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That's brilliant.
Man, aye, so it's called the Colonel, man.
We should get him together with Swanee.
The Colonel Swanee. Unstoppable.
Yeah.
And also, there's another wee guy, John, I think, John's maybe in a later photograph, so I'll tell you about him a wee bit later. But, they're just like a stalwart of the canals. That's like all the boys that work at the canal know them, and they were like that to me at the start. It just says, listen, don't get too attached to a lot of them, because a lot of them drop off like flies. It's just one of these things, I suppose, like it's occupational hazard. You get attached to certain subjects and certain things happen. So it's, you've got to keep professional distance and these kind of things. But anyway, moving on. Okay. This is half a holiday. It's just great. It's just like, for me, it's it's kind of fine art picture, isn't it? Really anxious. Like, you can see I tried to remove the second tree so I could get a cleaner shot. I wanted to do that one. I just love that half a holiday.
It's like some of you were on Bullseye. Oh, you've not won the £1 million.
Yeah, runners up. Half a caravan. You can have half a caravan now. Get to back to Aldershot or whatever else.
Brilliant.
I just love the shape of it. I love that it's half a caravan and in the tree, and we actually quite like the tree now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a kind of really nice shot. It's another shot I've sold quite a lot of, bizarrely enough, because
it's great.
Half something, half cousin.
Yeah. Half. Well, it looks like it's got. See the door. The door at the end, it looks like it's like a horse, like a horse box or something. You could just stick your head out or something like that.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, stop being by, selling with ice cream or something like that, or candy floss or something like that.
I could make a good food truck at one of the festivals.
It would. It looks like you could pull it with a tricycle or something like that.
Selling toasted sandwiches.
Get a rickshaw in front of that. You'd be Gallus, man, down the festival, down Transmit.
One of these new trendy bikes people are on, with battery bikes.
Oh yeah.
Right, there's John, man. John, I love John. John talks like that. All right, Brian, how's it going? And I've met John loads of times. And this is them just after we've been to the food bank. And this is how, the canal has got, at one end of things, it's got extreme poverty, and at the other end, you'll get people cutting about, doing the water sports and all that, and the brand new boats and this and that. But I kind of get really attached to John. He was lovely, and he was always on at me about, I love photography, man. I totally love it. It's amazing. It's brilliant. I've got a camera. Shaz, what's that camera I've got? It's a Nikon, John. All right, where was it going again, Shaz? Gas converters. And John was telling me about it, he's like, hi, Brian, I love the nature and all that. I found this buzzard that stunned it flown into a lamppost or one of the pylons up there, so I took it home and put it in the bath. Shaz shot herself when she came in. And I'm just like, really, John? You had a buzzard in your house? That's brilliant. So this went on for ages, and he's like, Brian, my camera's knackered. Like, see if I bring it up and you sort it. And I'm like, John, no bother. And this went on for about 6 months. John coming up with, oh, I've no blown it today, Brian. I forgot. Then one day, the day just after the colonel had jumped in to save, like, pull the suicide guy or women out the canal, John's in the background. John's like, Brian, I've got my big camera bag, the big Nikon camera and all that. So he's been telling the truth the whole time. So we got it, and it was just a wee thing that was jammed in the lens or something, and he had to charge the battery as well. So, you know, we kind of got it sorted. Looking through the photos, it's a photograph of a buzzard in his bath up Milton. So I fed it steaks, a picture of him holding like that with a steak next to a buzzard. So if you get Instagram, get that on Instagram right there. Mind you, the RSPCA probably wouldn't have been too happy.
Exactly.
He's a brilliant character, man. Absolutely amazing. Always smiling as well, always happy.
Yeah. So when you're meeting the guys, you said earlier that you wouldn't just go up to somebody and say, you know, let's take a photograph, because obviously that would be rude or whatever. Do you introduce yourself and kind of tell them a wee bit about your project, what you're doing?
No, because yes and no. Mostly people were interested in me. And I'm not saying that in a vain way or anything. I'm just
no.
Because people were like, what are you doing here? What are you doing your camera? What's going on? Are you the social? Are you this or that? So we'd be like, you could see. And it's just, for me, it's all about timing. It's like working with a lot of bands and celebrities and stuff like that. You've got to work out your timing really well and know, just watch them. It's like some kind of, it's not like, you know, it's behavioural, you know, studying behaviour and just knowing when's the right time. Yeah. And what's the right thing to say and what's not. Sometimes it's of course outrageous, you have it better within reason, you know. So it's just a balance, you know. Some people you have to approach them. And other people, it's, you know, you don't know. It's just one of those things. You've just got to gauge it. It's, you know, and that comes down to instinct. And I suppose experience, you know, I've been doing it for long enough to know that certain people don't want to be approached, and certain people definitely don't need to be approached, especially for my safety, you know. You know, you kind of get wise to these things the older you get, you know. Yeah. Moving on. Yep. This is a classic for Hill, you know, a lot of football stadiums. I kind of love this as well. It harks back to the kind of olden days where it's like Annie Willie in every comic as well, where, you know, somebody's peeking through the hole in the fence watching the football, and it's a wee bit on just on at Hill Basin where you can see the whole ground. It's probably the best seat in the house, actually. You know, you can see everything. So I was a wee bit apprehensive of going round and photographing people there because I thought a lot of them wouldn't want to be photographed, but nobody actually cared, you know. Yeah. Well, it was amazing because you could hear the roar louder because I lived just round the corner, but because there was loads of people in the bank when it was lockdown and all that, so you always get people in the bank of the canal watching it anyway. But there was like hundreds and hundreds of people there during the lockdown watching it, and you could hear the roar because they're higher up. I got elevated. I could hear it right in Kelvin Grove Park. You're like, what's that? And it was the Thistle or whoever they're playing. I love all that. It's just, you know, and I suppose it harks back to nostalgia, and photography by its very nature is nostalgic, and there's just something beautifully old school, working class Glasgow about folk watching football for free. Like that. I love that. I love it. It's a caca, Aye. And there's better photos of it, but that's just what it was in. You know, there's a guy listening to music and watching football. You know, it's a modern version of the aye, and then people just cycling by, not even bothered with football, such as the the magnitude of different interests people now. You know, I mean, I can imagine cycling by a football match where there's a big crowd when I was younger. Do you know what I mean? You'd stop and you go, oh, this is mega. What's going on? Oh, free football magic. Yeah. So, so just more, that gives you a bit. The light's fantastic there. What you can see there. That must have been a Rangers game because there's a guy with a Union Jack there, Rangers v Park. Oh, right. Oh, there you go. There you go. And just an everyday canal scene again.
Good shadows there, Button.
Yeah, these are nice, with nice geometric shapes underneath these underpasses, particularly in summer, and you know, also in winter when so it was just messing around with shapes, and because part, you know, as much as you get these like, really stunning shots, part of a documentary project has got to be, you know, the normal, the run of the mill, like, you know, but that's almost as important, you know. That's the kind of the links in the chain that makes the so-called, you know, big shots or hero shots work, you know. There's got to be a sense to it. There's got to be something that leads that to that, you know. So that's that. And this is really interesting to me. This is like, I think Channel 4 ended up using this shot when they were trying to get the offices to come to Glasgow as a new face of Glasgow, and this makes me really happy seeing this as well, because I don't think I would have been able to take this photograph 10 years ago in Glasgow, and now especially in the north of Glasgow and the south of Glasgow, you know, southern bits and pockets of Glasgow, you know, there's this real brilliant diversity of people.
Absolutely. See the wee guy in the middle on the bike. Remember we were talking about North Kelvin, who are the kind of local boys team. That's wee Daniel. He's in Eugene's team, my son's team.
Really?
He played North Kelvin. He was the goalkeeper. Wee Daniel, crack wee guy. Used to give him a lift.
He's got the eyes of a goalkeeper anyway. He's confident.
He's great. No, he's a good goalkeeper. Right?
Totally, man.
Brothers a good football team as well.
I just kind of love, because it just shows. I love the kind of slightly camp bloke in the middle, you know, walking with a hen t-shirt. And then, you know, the slightly other, maybe his boyfriend or whatever, chihuahua outside the Chinese restaurant. You know, there's just loads of stuff going on in it. And, it just reminds me of that night we were out, and I was out with Albion, and it's just like, you know, it's a cracking reflection of Mary Hill, really. Like,
it's modern Mary Hill now,
we'd been shooting that, and we went to see Mary Hill play Clyde Bank. And Mary Hill, you know, juniors. Got that later on, and it was a terrible game. It was a 0-0 draw, and you know, with a couple of jars, it was me and a couple of pals. And we got a great social club in there afterwards, and we went into the social club, and I had Albion with us. You know, like, you know, I used to take him to the football all the time, watching overs and that, and so he came along with us. So there was a wee spread on and everything, and just sitting in, and Albion all of a sudden jumped up, pulled the chicken off the table, and ran away, and just kind of got chatting, and like, it was just, was that your dog? It's so that chicken. I was like, aye. And she turned around and she goes, you do know this is a funeral? And it was just like, oh no. And then everybody was started laughing, because they were like, oh, your dog's magic. Albion's a hero. He's sitting in the corner eating this chicken, growling it. People trying to get chicken back at him.
Brilliant.
And that's from that night. It's my love of football. I just love that stand in the background. Like, I thought it bookended all that football stuff, but it just, you never, because somebody sends me another picture of a really ramshackle football stadium. In fact, I had 2 emails today from 2 of my pals sending me pictures of stadiums that I've not done. So, but I walked by, God, about 3 weeks ago, and I saw that wee stand from a different angle, and I thought, God, I've got to get that photograph. It's beautiful. I
love the way the kind of rows of seats. They're not like, you know, like they're all these perfect seats. If you go to Hampden or Ibrox or whatever, they're kind of bland, and they're kind of, you know, they spell out Scotland or Ibrox or whatever, Jockstein or whatever. Look at that. It's like a burst accordion or something like that. Look, it's like that. It's like a wave.
It's definitely get a Latvian fourth division about it. Like, I kind of like, the reason I took the photograph there is, like, you know, like, I could have shot it where you can see all the players and stuff. But for me, it's all about the personality of the stadium. You know, I think the stadium's got more personality sometimes than a lot of the players. And
the social club, as you say, is fantastic. Social club's great.
It's brilliant. There's built a few art shots as well. Actually, I sold one to an artist friend of mine, Scott, whose dad's from Maryhill. But there you go. We guys loving fishing again, brilliant. You don't really see that often. We guys, it was just like, listen, I'm taking photographs of the canal. I had my canals jacket on. I made sure I had my uniform on when I'm taking photographs of the kids that are involved, so there's no, you know, any angry parents kind of after me.
Aye. Well, that's the bit where I caught pike in there.
Was it?
My cousin's John Quigley's got a restaurant called Red Onion, in the town. It's near Blythwood Square. And he was on that Fred Macaulay show, you know. Oh, Fred Macaulay. You know, he's a comedian, or was a comedian. I think he still is a comedian. Anyway, they showed on Radio Scotland. And John Quigley would go on once a week and do an unusual dish, you know. And John had said, oh, yeah, I was in Poland once and they were eating pike and I know a fantastic pike recipe, blah, 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 blah. He had no idea how to cook pike or whatever, I don't think. But so I went and caught one in there. He says, I need a pike. He went to Angus McPhee, straight from the sea to Angus McPhee guy, fishmongers. And he couldn't get one. So I went up there with a wee spinner and I caught one. And I took it to him about an hour before the show. In fact, I took it to my house and John did the show from my house and they took the show from my house, live, Fred Macaulay, and he cooked the pike. And it tasted rotten because pike taste of their environment and they taste of pond.
Aye.
So you've got to add a lot of spices and paprika and all that to get any taste out of it. The bland fish.
Poaching pike, you got a license? Do you not need a license?
You don't know. Apparently a license for the canal is £5 a year, but there's no person that I've actually ever checked, so nobody ever buys a license for the canal. But there's all sorts of the canal. There's trout in the canal. There's goldfish in the canal. Again, people pouring their goldfish into the canal. There's tench, there's bream, there's roach, there's perch, there's all sorts. Gudgeon, all sorts. Gudgeon's a great name, isn't it?
Superb. Never caught a gudgeon in my life.
But that's just beside Thistle's Ground. That's just beside Furrow.
No, but it's just really lovely. You see, I was just asked the boys, going to take some pictures, and it was like an absolutely sweltering hot day, like totally sweltering, and they were out fishing. And it's like, look, like we obviously know what they're doing because those rods aren't Wayne's rods. Do you know what I mean?
No, they're Daz rods. Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
That's proper kit, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're very lucky to have the Glasgow Angling Centre, which is just at Possil, just at the Possil.
Do you know that?
It's cracking, guys. It's brilliant. They've got loads of good baseball hats on it.
That started out in Cumbernauld Village.
Did it?
Aye.
It's absolutely massive and it's fantastic. Even if you don't like fishing, go in there. It's a paradise for winter jackets.
Aye.
I think Liam Gallagher's been in there a few times to get some of his parkas and all that.
Aye.
That's where he goes, Liam Gallagher. Knocks all the ideas for green.
Whatever it is. Right, there's your wee classic. There'd be a bottle of Bucky photo bombing shop. That was, everybody loves that as well. It's just, you know, it's Glasgow, innit? It's like, you know, it's like those wee glasses or mugs you get, Glasgow. They're a photography, you know, a bit of a BAM, your North Face jacket on and a wee BAM photo bomb in it.
Yeah.
You know, there's no science to that. It's just, you know, it's
photographs. But his reflection, the wee BAM's reflection is brilliant.
Aye. That's him doing his exercises. His yoga.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the boys' favourite. I mean, he's about his early 30s or something, you know, so there's Shars in the corner, you know, but it's just a wee gang, you know. Boys up, it's, you know, it's part of life, and I don't know much to say. I mean, it's a great laugh and get some great stories, and we know so much about the wildlife, like, but you know, they still have an infinite knowledge of pursuits of the past, like, you know, you're talking about Swanee swimming out and getting them, you know, maybe still talking about nesting and all that. It's just
so they are. I like all that. It's brilliant.
Aye, superb.
Yeah.
This was Apple. I love this shot because I used to see the two of them quite a lot. She'd moved up from Yorkshire or something. She stayed at the student accommodation opposite that. It used to be a Partick Thistle pub. It's called the Buckney now. It's a bistro. And but I used to bump into them quite a lot. And it was one of those ones where I kind of saw her growing up for a wee while. Yeah. You know, like, and you know, it was just sweet. She used to take her out there every single day, just, you know, walking regardless of the rain. And
it's a beautiful photograph. It's beautiful. Yeah,
I suppose it's just showing the variety of people that actually use the space, you know. I think, and I don't know, it's just really simple, natural. I asked to take a photograph after seeing him and talking to him for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And then I took this photograph, and you know, I didn't take that many photographs.
Yeah.
But both reactions are brilliant. It's always really difficult photographing kids because 9 times out of 10, we either don't want to get the photograph taken and go out their way not to get the photograph taken.
Yeah.
Either exaggerate it the other way and do with extreme face. I've been spending attention now. I've been talking to the computer for too long. And that's John and his mad bikes. He used to work up the White House, and there's a mist again. That was just, misty morning. Probably just come across. I'm going across to Kelvin Dock or whatever, walking up, and John used to repair bikes. I think he worked for big bike shops. Or, you'd probably know him if you're a cyclist about Glasgow. He's been around for ages, and he used to run a cafe, and then that's up at Maryhill Locks. And I've got some great pictures with him with different bikes. People would phone him with, obviously, this mad tricycle or this mad monocycle. And, more often than not, I'd see him cycling up with some crazy, crazy bike. And that was just him sitting outside. I've got a crack in one of them smoking, and there's millions of smoke there, but we didn't include that for reasons. But, right. And this is, oh God, what's his name again? He's a total character. I bumped into him, and this is departure because this is black and white. I just found this the other day, and it just lended itself to black and white. And God, what's his name again? But I bumped into him for ages and ages and ages, and this was the first time I actually had a conversation with him, and he'd been watching me for ages. And he just gets such a great face to photograph. Yeah. And it could only have been shot in black and white, only. And he was just telling us all these stories about he used to work in some factory just by the canal, and he just knew the history. Again, it was one of those ones going, fuck, I wish. And the thing is, this thing I don't realise, because I'm one of these dinosaurs who live in the past. I've got a camera, and I don't realise that I've got a phone with me, and I can record conversations on phones, because I'm thinking the way I used to think, right, think camera, shoot camera, and it's kind of one of the only regrets I kind of have is not recording a lot of the stories a lot of people told me while I was there. But, Scottish Canals, if you're listening, there's another project in there.
Could you tell, Brian, why is it called the Nolly? Do you know that?
I do know this. I do know this.
People call it an ollie. Local people call it an ollie. I'm like, how do you know?
Couldn't say that because that was expressed like the canal. You'd say the
all right, the canal. We could ask locals if any locals know that, or if there's a big story to it. They could maybe send it.
There's actually a bridge. As you go through the old bridge. There's a really beautiful old photograph of it, and it's a bridge that links. I can't mind the name of the street now, but you're coming down. It's where all the buses park for Partick Thistle, but you come across the canal, and Partick Hill Basin is on the right hand side, and
yes,
Hill Basin, and there's a wee bridge here, and that's actually called the Nolly Bridge.
Oh, is it? Right, cool.
There's a plaque up in that.
I know, it's just before you get to Panmure Street and you get out to the right hand side.
Yeah, that wee bridge there, and it's actually called the Nolly Bridge. And I don't see that.
Nolly Bridge, excellent.
It's just an old thing. I don't actually know. Eve, do you know why it's called the Nolly?
I should do. I can find out.
Yeah.
She'll
be on Google.
She's going to cross the road. She's going to cross Teresa. That's simple. Elspeth. Right, is that you fishing for the pike? That's
me fishing for the pike, man.
Nice canal skies. The skies, the canal are amazing. It's like for different from the skies you see on the canal, because if you work it out, basically it's not the highest point in Glasgow, but you go up to, it's called something or other, so it gradually goes up until it gets to this plane in Glasgow, and it remains the same height throughout the whole of Glasgow, and then it goes to Edinburgh, it sinks and rises again, like hence all the kind of locks. But the skies are unbelievable. Yeah.
So this is the back of the building, which is at the locks, which is the one you were saying. The guy John has got the cafe in the bike shop.
Yeah.
The
So
bike,
this is all changed now since it's been. This was before it was renovated. The right hand side, it's all glass windows, and I think it's a restaurant and all that now.
Cool. That's a great wee bit. That actually is lovely. It's a nice bit.
No, I mean, it's all changed. It just looks pedestrian. But now, if you go there on summer's days, people sat out the back.
That's right.
You can get sandwiches, and it's gentrified. Gentrified canal. Oh, is that it?
I think that's us. Well, we open up, Brian. We'll open up the questions. If there's any questions for anybody on Facebook, if John sent us any questions or anything like that, we'll just have a wee look at John. I'll see if there's anything in the chat. If there's any chat, or if anybody's got any questions, he could maybe just fire them up on Facebook. They'll come to us directly, and we'll have a wee look. I'll just tell you a couple of things that people have said while we're waiting. Okay.
Are you seeing that now, Ken?
I can see the kind of live. So Joe's watching tonight, and Joe sends his greetings from Manchester. That's J.O. I think he's a friend of yours. He might be one of your mad pals from the Manchester scene, Sweeney.
Joe?
Joe from Manchester. He's probably one of those baggy guys you used to hang about with.
The spiral carpets, Joe.
Aye, one of those guys.
Joe.
Dominic Kukosa says, I misspent a lot of my youth fishing for pike down the Nolly. Good stuff, Swindle. Do you know Dominic?
I know Dominic very well, yep. Dominic, you can tell Dominic I've got large plans for his studio.
Okay.
Domination.
Yep. There you go. He'll be able to hear that, but I'll send him a wee thing anyway. Jane Henderson, who is a good friend of mine, and Jane and her brother Davey used to work for the Simple Minds, and Jane did the lights and Davey did the sound on the first album, and they still working away in the music industry, and they do the sound whenever I do a gig. And that's Jane says, great photos and great commentary. So our partner's getting a wee bit of a, probably your partner, not mine. Okay. Scott won't be mine. Glasgow, Scott Glasgow, I think his name is. Great to see Maryhill and the surrounding area. I grew up in Woodside and had my first house off of Sandbank Street. My daughter went to Woodside Nursery and we cycled the canal every day there and back. Well, that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? It's just trying to capture a kind of thing before it changes. Be gentrified. I mean, they've built some fantastic houses there. They've got that cracked wee slide. They've got the clay pits project. They've really opened up to people, because before it was, what I think part of the project was, you were saying, Brian, it was to try and capture it before the big changes had been made, like a lot of the.
I mean, interestingly enough, they've said to me that they want me to do it again. I mean, so that'll be, I suppose it'll be 4 years' time, or 5 years' time, or something. Mm-hmm. So maybe
that would be really interesting.
After, just the journey of, which I'd absolutely love to do. Maybe approach it in a different way now. Yeah. I mean, cameras and media are so much different, even from when I shot that project. You can do it in so many different ways now. Yeah, with something in your pocket.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. That'd be a great project to revisit, sort of thing, and see how, because I think they're kind of building on it, but they're building on it in a way that's not encroaching on the nature. They've still got the green bits, the green belts, and they've still got the reed beds, and they've still got, hopefully they'll retain that,
It's been really well planned out. I mean, especially, there's a new plots that the canal is selling. There's Joe's, she's built that barn. People have, I think there's about 9 plots below the canal. There's another 10 plots just above the canal. And we've got to fit certain aesthetic and, actual environmentally standards before we can build what we're doing. So, it's looking good, man.
Okay. So I think we just got to finish up in a couple of minutes now, because that's just over an hour and 10 minutes. But we'll just read a couple more of these, okay? So this is from Senna McFarlane, and she's saying, I've learned so much about photography and it's opened my eyes to what looks ordinary but can be quite fascinating. Also learned a lot about fishing too. Fantastic. Just get a map on there, Senna, or a bit of mackerel on the end of a hook and you'll get a big pike. Okay. Just past the hour now. That's John telling us to wrap it. Okay. Josh Treen, the guy's name's Josh Treen. Do you know Josh Treen? That's the Manchester guy.
Aye, did I call him Treen?
Aye. I think his name's Josh Treen. It's Josh Treen, Ken, not Joss or whatever. One of your pals.
Josh.
You know Joss. So hi, Joss. This is from Rainwar Clark. Are dogs allowed in both the places you're exhibiting, Brian? And we've got an answer here. It says dogs are welcome in T103, and I'm sure dogs will be welcome in Sogo Arts as well.
Yeah, we're
I'm
encouraged.
sure they are. They're very accommodating at both places. So when you're going to catch Brian's stuff before the 3rd of October, you can take your dog and you can go to Salt Market for Sogo Arts, pop around the corner for 103 Trongate, and you'll catch both of them. And they might even put a bowl of water out for your dog.
Well, there's a wee pet shop on Parney Street around the corner if you want.
Oh, there's a pet shop. You can get yourself some of those pig's ears or something like that. Some of those chews. A couple of pig's ears. Okay, Darren Hamilton, Malcolm's nephew watching in Manchester, been looking forward to this and absolutely loved it. Thank you very much. A couple more. Donnie McLean, what is next photography project that you plan to undertake? And that's for you, Brian. Do you want to take that?
I've got a studio tomorrow for the next 3 days backstage at Playground Festival, where I'm going to be doing portraits in a studio of a lot of people who photographed back in the 90s, so it'll be interesting to see the changes in. Bookending, perhaps. Yeah. So doing that, was just shooting a guy, really interesting guy today, JJ Matthews, I think. Better check that out. But he was on Strictly, he was once a Marine, now a presenter. And he was basically blown up in Afghanistan as a Marine, and now he's been on Strictly Dancing, so it's a beautiful story. He's a presenter now, so I keep going forever, but I'll stop. Aye.
Okay, look, thanks very much, and thanks very much for the questions, and thanks, great, for Street Level Photoworks for hosting this. Street Level Photoworks is a great place for checking out new photography. They've got workshops, they've got exhibitions on constantly, so you can pop in there on your travels. And very nice speaking to you, my friend Sweeney. And the next time we will probably be having a pint of Guinness together, the next couple of weeks with your wee dog. Okay, talk about Albion Rovers. All right, so see you later, and thanks everybody for
have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.